Hey everybody, how you doing today? Hope you've enjoyed those first two episodes with Anna. I know I had a blast going through them. This next topic is really just acknowledging that people learn differently. And I was just curious, how does Anna learn? Because she's doing some amazing things. She's got these Airbnbs, she's joint venturing, she's buying big apartment buildings, she's doing amazing things. And I just had to ask her, how does she learn? How you doing, Anna?
I'm doing great. How about you?
I'm doing well. I'm really curious. I'm like, because again, you've done amazing things for 20 years. You started in a little town in Pennsylvania and just continued to evolve and add more skills, I guess I'll call them. And I'm just, how do you do that? I mean, how do you learn?
Over time, it's probably changed a little bit, but I've always pretty much been a researcher. Like if I'm going to learn something, I go all in and I'm going to like really learn enough that I feel confident that I can understand risks and mitigate risks to some extent. And then I jump before I have
Mhm.
all of the rest of the puzzle fit together. Right. So it's kind of like if I think of a puzzle, if I can figure out research, talk to people, read some books, and see the edges of the puzzle,
Ah,
I can
yeah.
be like, okay, here's kind of my guide rails. Here's the things that I know. I don't want to go over here and I don't want to go over here, but in the middle, somewhere there's a little bit of safety because I'm a cautious person, right? I worked full time. I had 4 children to support. My husband had his business, and we relied on me, doing things safely, right? So I really usually just would say, okay, I want to do something. Now let me find a book or two that I can read that'll give me the basics. And so the very first thing I did when I started deciding to do rental properties is I bought a book by Dave Lindahl called Multifamily Millions,
Oh, yeah, I've
and
read
it
that.
basically went in and I still recommend it to everybody. It's like, here's what you can do when you buy multifamily, and here's the risks, and here's how you buy them and value them and manage them, and how you can make them worth a lot more money. And I was like, aha, right? Okay. Well, I can't start with a 100 unit, but I have some money in my 401k. I can buy a 4 unit, right? Or
Yeah.
I can house hack a 4 unit. So just reading enough that got my wheels turning to, wow, this is possible, allowed me to go, now I can kind of combine that with what I know of lending and what I know of, the financial world. But I was always like, I've always been a thinker of, here's where I want to go in life. Here's
Mm,
what the goal is. Where is an expert or two that I can read what they have to say? Back then, there weren't podcasts and YouTube videos. There were a couple books and Bigger Pockets. I read a few Bigger Pocket threads, and I read that Multifamily Millions book. I found one other small book on like buying and selling small apartment buildings, and said, okay, I got enough information that I'm going to go look for a small apartment building. And then I just did it. So I still learn that way, Michael, with diet. It's like, okay, I've tried everything. Let me go read some actual doctors and experts, and I'll read 2 or 3 books. And it's like, aha, now I got the tools. I'm just going to go try it. So I usually don't read more than about 2 experts,
mm.
but I try to read what they have to say. And then I try it out on a small scale, knowing that I'm going to make some mistakes from what I don't know
Yeah.
before I then use that to go bigger.
That's funny. So we're very similar, right? I loved your edges, right? You look for the edges. I thought that was a very good analogy. For me, I've always been a consumer of information, right? I don't, I like, I'll read almost anything, right? That seems interesting. And what I then get from that is I do look for inspiration, right? You talked about Dave Lindahl being your book. For me, it was a guy named Fixer J. He basically talked about buying multiple houses on one lot. That was his thing, right? Buy them run down, get owner financing, all these creative things. He had 3 or 4 books in his series. So he was the guy that got me started. I'm like, oh, I'm going to go look for 2 or 3 houses on one lot. And I don't care about the condition. It's amazing how similar we are. We just
Yeah.
had different, you know, I don't know,
Yeah.
mentors or leaders. Because yeah, and then the other thing you said, I totally agree with. I just get enough. And I think your edges was a great analogy, right? Understand the upside and the downside. And then
Hmm.
you execute, you jump, you move in. And
Right.
I started looking. I started doing, and then I started doing deals and I started doing my own comparison. And oh, by the way, the numbers that he had don't make sense for my market. It's different. And I didn't begrudge him, right? I didn't go, you're an idiot, I'm going to stop. I'm like, okay, my market's different. What the hell? Let's just, keep moving forward. So, um, yeah, excellent. It's funny when you were talking, I'm like, yep, we're similar in that regard.
Yeah. And it's just, and even today, like, I'm going to be honest, I don't have time to listen to tons of podcasts and to listen, I subscribe to a bunch, but I might listen to one or two podcasts a month, if I'm totally honest. Maybe one time I hear something, I'm like, ooh, I got to listen to,
Mm.
4 of those or 5 of those. But usually I'm too busy, right?
Right.
And so when you find your niche and you do this kind of as you grow, you learn from some books or from a meetup group, you get an idea. And then it's like, okay, what do I need to take the first step to execute that idea? Can I find a small enough property or, an opportunity that's around me that I can try that on? And I really learn from doing. So it's like you get the information, but then you got to have enough foresight and courage to say, I don't have to figure it all out and get into analysis paralysis. I just have to figure out what is the biggest risk if I take this step today. How am I going to kind of mitigate it if I get into trouble, and who can I reach out to, right?
Hmm.
And then you take the step and you learn through failure, truly. Like, you fail on this, it's like, oh, I got to do that better next time, or I got to do this better next time. You call someone and go, uh-oh, I have this problem, can you give me some advice, right? And I still do that. So, but what the beauty of trial and error, Michael, is that as you do it, you become more confident that, oh, now I've got this part handled.
Hmm.
I'm going to add something else to what I'm already doing. And I don't go too far out of that box. Like, for example, when I first flipped a couple houses, buying a 4-unit building wasn't so scary because I had a rental property in the back of a house I was flipping, and I rented it out to help cover the mortgage while we flipped the house. So I'm like, I had a tenant, I've upgraded a property. So when I bought the 4-unit, it was like, I read Multifamily Millions, and it's like, it's just 4 of the same thing that I already did. I did a big house, I've had a tenant. Now there's just 4. So it's just going to take me a little longer. And oh, by the way, the financing evaluation's a tad different, but it was just an incremental step.
Right.
And then I had a bunch of those 4 units. And then I had some more flips. And then I was like, we want a vacation rental. Well, let's buy one that needs a lot of work, because that's where we make money, is when we buy right. And then we'll rent it out and we'll enjoy it. So, it took years for me to do those one step at a time. And then it was like, okay, now I got 70 units. I can buy a 70-unit apartment building because it's just doing what I've already done in one place.
Right.
So I don't go crazy and go, now I'm going to go buy cryptocurrency and become a cryptocurrency expert. It's like outside of my wheelhouse.
Right.
So most of the time I'm adding a new layer to what I'm already proficient in and experienced in. And it makes the fears a lot less, because I'm like, I know enough to do 90% of it, and I got 10% to learn and grow.
Yeah. And this is where, while we were very similar in the beginning, this is where I'll say we're different.
Mm-hmm.
And what you have done is you have continually gone that next layer, right? You've gone that one ring, to use an analogy, one more ring. You're 90% there. And I really haven't. And I think about that a lot, actually. I'm like, what am I doing? Right. So we did a bunch of houses, all like, we don't have any joint ventures. We don't have any Airbnbs. We don't
Yeah.
have anything in other states. We never done a syndication. We don't, it's just so many things that I've seen and admire that you've kind of grown into. And I'm like, I'm not doing any of that. And I'm like,
But
why'd I
Michael,
stop?
the beauty of real estate too is that not everybody has to, right? Like, you have something that works and works really, really, really well. You continue to grow, and you've grown your wealth and done very well doing that. And some people are more of a creature of habit. Like, they find their thing and that's their thing, right?
Right.
The only reason I think I've kind of branched out is because I was grilled as a financial advisor, like diversification, diversification. And so when I had to think about, if I left my job, what are my risks and where am I not diversified? I realized that all of my properties were in the same location. Like, they're all in a teeny tiny town that if the big employers go out, I could be in trouble. So I'm
Mm.
like, I'll just move some of my money into Maryland. And then if I do bigger apartments, I can buy some in the South. And so I've started to branch out because I believed that another recession was coming, and I wanted to be a little more diversified. So
Mm.
it wasn't really like, this is the next thing I have to do, but I'm always thinking about, where's my cash flow buckets, where's my growth buckets, and where's my asset preservation buckets,
Yeah.
and where are there opportunities in the marketplace that I can use to fill that bucket so that I've got a lot of cash, a lot of growth or cash flow, a
Mhm.
lot of things that are going to provide growth, and other things that are really for preservation. And so adding incrementally what I know in a way that can serve those financial goals, that's where my mindset always is.
Yeah, and again, hopefully you took that as a compliment because I admire everything, and I watch you from both afar, and we have these weekly conversations. I think you're
Yeah.
doing it right. Yeah, you're still meeting your yearly goals, joy, and all of that. And I think it's the right thing to do. If you have that in you, go for it. And
Yeah.
I
I
ask myself
appreciate that.
questions all the time, like, you
I
know,
will say this though, Michael, I don't think you're giving yourself enough credit because listen, you've done single family,
uh-huh,
you just opened the Hive, you're
uh-huh,
doing office space,
yeah,
you've done some apartments,
hmm,
you're coaching, you've
hmm,
written a book, you've got the diversification in there too. You're just doing most of it in one area,
hmm,
right? And that's okay. So you're diversifying by different types of asset classes, different types of businesses that create you income streams.
true.
They just happen to be in the same location. And so the diversification is what we have in common.
Mhm.
We're just diversifying in a different way,
Well,
right?
that's very nice of you to say. Thank you.
True, it's true.
Yeah, yeah, and again, I guess to just kind of summarize how we learn because everybody is different, right? For me, it's inspiration, know the edges. I'm going to steal that, the edges, and then just do. And then, yeah, you make mistakes and you keep going forward. Now, let's go back because we're both mentoring other people. Not everybody learns the same way. And I'm still impressed that we're almost identical in that way. But how do your students and how do you, because I have students of all kinds that I'm trying to help get to that direction. And it's not always easy.
It's not easy because everybody has their own background. Like we talked about, our background really drove how we think about life and why we started doing what we did to change our lives. Right? Some people have backgrounds where they've come from a lot of money. Some people have started with nothing. You know,
Mhm.
some people have fears that are very real fears that keep them from being able to take some necessary risk. And other people are such risk takers that they haven't been able to find success because they've had so many losses and the risk that they take. And so really for my students, what I do is I start from the beginning and I say, listen, I can tell you how to invest in real estate. That's the easy part, right? Not complicated, not easy, but not complicated.
Yeah.
The challenging part is to say, how do I look at all the opportunities that are out there in real estate, all the different things I could be doing, and how do I figure out what's the best way for me, right?
Mm.
And everybody's at a different place in terms of the time they have, the money they have, the risk tolerance that they have, their family dynamic, what allows them to spend more or less time. You know, whether they can invest from afar, whether their spouse is on the same page, like all those things really can make the way that I do real estate make someone else completely miserable and a failure.
Mm.
And so I really try to go back and say, let's see who you are and what is it that you really want? What's this life you want to create? What does that look like? Now let's find the investment opportunities that will allow you to put those opportunities in a way that they serve that bigger picture of what the life you want to create instead of starting from I want $10,000 a month and I need 10 single family houses to get me there, right?
Yeah.
That's you're going to pursue the pursuit of the money and it's going to take over your life if you buy the wrong things
Yeah.
instead of let's create my investment plan so that it serves the life that I want to live and I can do it with more balance and joy.
Yeah. It's amazing how similar again we are here because for me, it often boils down to, yeah, where you want to go, the vision of 4 or 10 or 100 or whatever that number is for you is all well and good. I want to bring you all the way back to the next step. Like some folks
Yeah,
already have a couple. Okay, great. Let's talk about getting to the next one.
right.
Some people have zero. Okay, well, for you, if you have zero, it's actually not about getting your first rental. In my world, it's I want to help you write an offer on a good deal.
Right.
That is success. Even if they
Yeah.
say no, I want to pat you on the back and say, congratulations, you wrote a good offer.
100%.
You know, and you got to bring them back, because a lot of folks, um, I don't know if it's distraction or they lose they lose momentum, they lose excitement, they get lost. So I just want to bring them back to that next thing they could say they did, right? If you have 3 or 4 units, great. We're going to get you your 5th unit. But if you have 0,
Yeah,
let's just write a good offer and see what happens.
100%. Right, right. It's the financial knowledge and education piece with the let's figure out what's best for you piece. And when you can help people realize why they're different, how they're different, and that there's opportunities out there that can work for them, and it's very doable. Most people getting started, Michael, they think I'm never going to be able to find the time or the money to do this. And so they don't get started. So if you can talk to them about what's doable, what's the first one, the one rental at a time, really, how do you learn it, evaluate it, and go after it? And if you can do that, you're halfway there, right? Then it's just wash, rinse, repeat, and add another color to your load, I guess. I'm
There,
full of visions today, but
yeah, that was good.
it's
Yeah.
like, it's like, get started, just get started, because we can't tell you how it's going to end up. But if you don't get started, you won't change things. If you just get started, you will become more successful and more close to financial freedom than you were yesterday.
There
And you
you
just
go.
keep doing it.
There you go. Well, again, a great episode, folks. These 3 with Anna have been true fire. Do me a favor, folks. If you're still watching, leave a note below. Thank Anna for all her help and support. Let's show her some love. Thank you, Anna. This has been a lot of fun.
Thank you so much. Y'all have a good day.